I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made, second. Second by Emery Cross. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have two individuals excused from this evening's meeting, John McMillan and P.J. Keeler. P.J. may be late. If he arrives late, we'll recognize him as such. We have three disciplinary actions to read into the record. The Westbury Fire Department of Westbury, New York has been assessed a civil penalty of $8,000 for violations of Part 800.23a, 800.23f, and 800.21f. Julie Brayton, New York State EMT number 267859 of Gloversville, New York, surrendered her advanced New York State certification effective November 3rd, 2011. The responder's basic certification remains in effect with an expiration date of November 30th, 2013. The New York Hospital Medical Center of Queens, Flushing, New York has been assessed a civil penalty of $5,000 for violations of Part 800.24b6, 800.21d, 800.21b7, 800.21f, 800.23a, 800.21h, 800.21n, 800.21b, and Part 80.136, Section K1. We have correspondence here from the Department of Health regarding some renewals. Those copies are up here. They're informational only. You have them on your agenda. They need not be read into the record. Some general remarks regarding correspondence. The Remsco acknowledges the receipt of several letters and emails expressing concern over the decision of the Board of Directors of Saratoga Emergency Medical Services to transfer its Certificate of Operating Authority to Troy Ambulance Service. Under the circumstances, the statutory charge of the Remsco is to review the application and determine if the transferee of the certificate, Troy Ambulance Service Incorporated, DBA Empire Ambulance, is competent and fit to operate the service. While we recognize the varied and legitimate concerns expressed by those who have corresponded with the Council, we must reiterate that we have a very limited scope of inquiry and review into matters such as this. The CON Committee has reviewed both the application and the nearly 24 or more submittals received from interested persons. The CON Committee has likewise reviewed the determination from the Department of Health that reported no impediments to the fitness and competency of the transferee. At the top of the agenda, therefore, we will take a report of the CON Committee. Mr. Eisenhandler.
Okay, as was mentioned by the Chair, the CON Committee reviewed the application and reviewed the statement of fitness and competency from the Department of Health. The Department of Health found no bars to the fitness and competency. The CON Committee found that the statement of fitness and competency was adequate for the question raised. And as a second motion, sent down to this Council, a motion to approve the fitness and competency report.
We have a seconded motion from the CON Committee to approve the fitness and competency as presented. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that this matter be tabled and be approved within our window of 60 days from this receipt for further review. There's multiple questions that have been raised about this issue, not about the fitness and competency of Empire Ambulance. I'm not disputing that in any way. I just think the entire matter should be tabled for now until further review can be done by the CON Committee.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that motion.
We have a seconded motion. Any discussion on the seconded motion that's come to the table regarding tabling the vote? Yes, sir.
Considering that there is not going to be a hiatus in the operating of the certificate, the only thing to come before us is fitness and competency. So I'm wondering what else we will be investigating or discussing.
I feel that reviewing the application, it was actually incomplete, even though the committee found it complete. There is not a list of, according to the policy, should have marked the page, my apologies. In the application, there should be a listing of all capital, property, plant, equipment, receivables, and stock owned by the certificate holder or involved in the transfer. And from reviewing the application, and I believe council also reviewed the application, I did not see such a list. Therefore, I don't think this council should act on this application until things are complete.
Further discussion?
I will mention one thing as the CON chair. We actually, at least four people looked this over very carefully, and there were a couple questions raised. Kevin is correct. I just looked over for the third time. I cannot find that list as mentioned in 0606. So, you know, if we, the people that looked at it, failed to find it, I apologize for that, but I don't see it in there. The applicant is here and certainly can point out our error if we make an error. I could not find the list of assets in here.
I was under the impression that our attorney said that it was ambiguous and that was a matter for somebody else, not us.
And Dave, I agree with you. We should limit ourselves to what we're allowed to. But I think what Kevin is raising is a valid point in that there are still some unanswered questions about this. We would do no harm if we delay it a little bit further. It's not like SEMS is going to stop operation Monday morning. And I'm sure Kevin, as a representative of Saratoga County, has his county residents' best interest at heart as well. And I don't think he would, you know, raise such a point if there was no reason to do so. And I have, you know, I served under Kevin in the CON committee, and you know, I know him to be very cautious in his actions, and I'm comfortable with the motion. I don't see a compelling reason to make an error on our part for the sake of speed.
Mr. Russell?
Could I ask our counsel if this application is complete or incomplete?
Based on my review, Mr. Retzlaff, I do not believe, I concur with Kevin Robert. I don't believe the item concerning capital property, plant equipment, receivables, and stock owned by a certificate holder involved in the transfer was included. That was not the topic that was discussed. It was the prior point that we discussed at the CON about the copy of stock sale and transfer agreement. This was something that came to light afterwards.
What exactly was it?
The last point, or sorry, the penultimate, the point before the last point in 0606 on page 16, that requires the application to have a listing of all capital, property, plant, equipment, receivables, and stock owned by the certificate holder or involved in the transfer. It was brought to my attention after the CON that in reviewing the application that wasn't in there. I looked before I came down, I had them looked as well. There's apparently no listing of that information as set forth here.
Any further discussion? Yes?
So are we saying that it's impossible for us to take this action? We're simply, as I understand it, acting on a report from the New York State Department of Health, who has found the recipient of the licensed territory to be fit and competent to allow that transfer to occur. So what are we're saying that we can't take that action because a form was not included in here?
I feel that we shouldn't proceed because the application is incomplete. And we shouldn't act on fitness and competency, and please someone correct me if my understanding is wrong. We act on fitness and competency as part of the application for the transfer. If the transfer application is actually incomplete, it shouldn't be acted upon, in my opinion.
And this is just a general question for anybody who's been on the CON committee. I know we've done this several times in the past. Has this document always been included in the previous submissions?
It should have been.
But I mean, has it? I mean,
To the best of my recollection, yes.
Jimmy, just one thing to add, I did my CON rather recently, the last couple of years. I had my kickback a couple of times because it was incomplete. Not necessarily this specific issue, but not complete, it gets kicked back. I don't know how we got where it is now.
Rich?
I understood the motion as presented, but would it be in better form to reject the application as incomplete and return it to the applicant? Because I don't know, but good tabling it won't make it complete 60 days from now, if it's not currently complete. And if I realize the applicant's sitting here, but if we don't advise them formally of what the deficiencies are, they have no way to correct them.
I'd be willing to amend my motion.
Yes.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, it
was
was.
seconded.
Well,
We have
we have
to-
to have unanimous consent to do that.
We have to act on it.
We're going to vote on this motion first. Do we have the attendance sheet? Because I'd like to do this as a roll call vote. Is there anyone that's a member of the council here as an alternate that has not signed the attendance sheet? I'll ask the stenographer if you could please read back Mr. Roberts' motion from earlier.
I'd like to make a motion that this matter be tabled and be approved within our window of 60 days from the receipt for the review. There are multiple questions raised about this issue, not about the fitness and competency of Empire Ambulance. I'm not disputing that. I think the entire matter should be tabled for now until further review can be done by the CON committee.
Thank you. With respect to that motion, if you believe that the motion should be revised based on the discussion, then you should vote no to that motion, and the new motion will be made based on the roll call vote of the attendees. Les Fremantle.
No.
William Price.
No.
Jim Reagan.
No.
P.J. Keeler is not here. Judith Shedd.
No.
Michael Potter.
No.
Dave Bettini.
No.
Phyllis Dinklacker.
No.
Phil Myers.
No.
Evan Eisenhandy.
No.
Steve Retzlaff.
Abstain.
Kathleen Allen.
No.
Kevin Robert.
No.
Dale Lingenfelter.
No.
James Vina.
No.
Dr. Daly.
No.
Steve Kroll.
No.
Steve Rinaldi is chairman. I'll abstain from the vote. Rich Brand.
Abstain, I have a conflict of interest in the matter before the body.
Thank you. Lynn Kane.
No.
Jim Stairs.
No.
Skip Nearney.
No.
Scott Skinner.
No.
Jeffrey Williams.
No.
Anne Marie Cross.
No.
Is there anyone present who has voting rights whose name I did not call? Twenty-one noes, 0 yeses, 3 abstentions. The motion fails. Further discussion regarding the seconded motion from the CON committee to approve the fitness and competency.
I make a motion that the application be returned as incomplete.
We have a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I'll call for a roll call vote regarding the seconded motion as stated. Does anyone require that the motion be reread? Les Fremantle.
Yes.
William Price.
Yes.
Jim Reagan.
Yes.
Judith Shove.
Yes.
Michael Potter.
Yes.
Dave Pettini.
Yes.
Phyllis Stinklacker.
Yes.
Phil Myers.
Yes.
Evan Eisenhammer.
Yes.
Steve Retzloff.
Abstain?
Kathleen Allen.
Yes.
Kevin Robert.
Yes.
Dale Lingenfelter.
Yes.
James Vena.
Yes.
Dr. Daly. Steve Kroll.
Yes.
Steve Rinaldi. As chairman, I'll abstain. Rich Brandt.
Abstain.
Lynn Kane.
Yes.
Jim Stairs.
Yes.
Skip Nearney.
Yes.
Scott Skinner.
Yes.
Jeffrey Williams.
Yes.
Anne Marie Cross.
Yes.
Is there anyone whose name I have not called who has voting rights? 21 yes, 0 no, 3 abstentions. The motion to table the recommendation from the CON passes. Any further report from the CON committee?
Not at this time.
Yes, sir.
Just had a question regarding the CON process in this application and the timeframes in accordance with public health law and our typical practice of not meeting in December. Are we, where are we with all that?
We have a seconded motion from the executive committee to postpone and not hold the December meeting, which has been our historic practice. That'll come down for vote. As part of the executive committee.
Is there any time frame associated with this that will require?
It has to be in our
us meet in
next
December?
scheduled meeting or within 60 days.
And I guess that's just my question regarding the upcoming meeting is, do we need to adjust our January meeting in accordance with the action that was just
That-
taken?
What is the date we're using as the day one?
Well, we would have to wait for the application to be returned as complete. Then the clock would start again. Mr. Brown?
It's my understanding under 0606, and I'll defer to Mr. Hannigan for expert opinion, that a regional council has an obligation to make a determination within 60 days of receipt of a complete application. So the clock is not yet ticking. Am I correct, Mr. Hannigan?
As usual, Mr. Brand, you are correct.
Very good. Any further discussion regarding the CON committee report or the application that was brought forward? Very good. We'll move on to the remainder of our agenda then. Executive committee report, again, as is customary, items discussed upstairs will be brought down. We have a seconded motion from the executive board to accept and approve as our auditors for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2011, Marvin and Company, certified public accountants. Any discussion on the engagement of Marvin and Company as our auditors for the just completed fiscal year? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The lease that we brought forth previously for 431 New Carter Road is in revision. We hope to bring that forward shortly. We have a seconded motion from the executive board for the suspension of the December meeting. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. Treasurer's report. Rich?
Sure. We're still in really good shape. Spreadsheet self-evident. $320,000 in cash, another $89,000 in bonds, leaving us with total assets of just under $500,000. Accounts payable are high this month, $20,797. Almost all of that more precisely, $20,182 is for the printing of the protocol books, which, as you know, were all funded through donations. So that's really the money that passes through our account. So this would be a motion to pay the bills, and most importantly, among them, the protocol printing bill.
We have a seconded motion for payment of the bills. Any discussion regarding the bills? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The bills shall be paid. Rich, anything further?
Nothing further, sir.
Medical Advisory Committee report, Dr. Daly.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. First, the protocol books have been met with great success. Thank you to the folks in this room that helped with that process. And once again, thank you to the hospitals that all came together collaboratively to support the printing of the protocol books. They seem to be just about perfect for our field providers so far, with the exception of those field providers over 45 who seem to need reading glasses, as Chief Wayne is pointing out here. Seconded by Ms. King. So, one project that started around this table, it continues, our efforts with the Department of Health and the Harm Reduction Coalition through the AIDS Institute to bring a basic life support program involving the use of intranasal Narcan is moving forward nicely. Hoag's Corners Ambulance has been nice enough to partner with us, and were videotaped starring in a response. Hoag's Corner Fire also assisted, and with any luck, this will be completed over the course of the next 3 months or so to go out to train folks statewide as part of this pilot. The intranasal Narcan itself will be supplied by the Harm Reduction Coalition at no charge to the agencies that get involved. So it's a pretty exciting program moving forward. And then one question was just brought to me that I just wanted to bring to this group that we will continue to collect more information about and bring back. But there was just a regional faculty class. This region, with a very active educational program, nominated 14 people to serve as potential regional faculty educators. We do a significant amount of education through Remo as well as through other areas in the region, and really we benefit from additional regional faculty. We supported 14 applications and sent them forward to the Department of Health, and found out today, 2 weeks after the class was held, that only 2 of our applicants were endorsed to participate in that class. Not happy with the way that progressed, and we'll be asking Tim to collect information from the Department of Health as to exactly how this timeline occurred, because I don't think it served this region and this council well. So just as an informational item, something we're going to ask Tim to look into further. And it was also.
Questions for Dr. Daly? Does that encompass all 3 of your reports, Doctor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Executive Director's report. Tim Robley.
Everybody should have a copy. January is shaping up to be a busy training month for us. A lot of stuff kicking off from research, refreshers, up to original classes. With any luck, they'll be held in our new facility, but we'll see how that goes. Big thing Steve talked about a little bit. Mr. Hannigan over here has reviewed our relocation lease, provided his comments. Our officers will review it. Hopefully that will go back to the landlord shortly, and we'll have a finished lease that we can sign off on and continue the process of moving. Protocol manuals. I think I've hit every agency except one, which is Chatham. They haven't got back to me with how many they need, but the past 2 weeks I put 426 miles on my truck delivering protocol books to just about every agency out there. Very well received. The exam is up and running. I believe Dean has notified all the appropriate people regarding that. And that's about it. Steve talked about the audit. Any questions?
Questions for Tim?
If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Tim. Going to cover in Tim's report. Over the past few years, the council has approved, and Tim has again requested the authorization to purchase 5 $50 gift certificates to provide one each to the staff at holiday time in recognition of their contribution to the organization. I'd like to
Make a
motion to
motion
do that.
to accept.
And thank you. And a
I'll
second.
second that.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. New York State EMS Council, Mr. Grant.
New York State EMS Council is having a special meeting tomorrow afternoon between 1 and 2 p.m. For the sole purpose of adopting the council's recommended budget to the commissioner for EMS. I am at a loss for further words.
Any questions for Rich? Rich, did you want to cover that? We have one new business item regarding the CMAC, which we can probably cover at this point, which is we have a seconded motion from the executive board for the reappointment of Dr. Daly, whose term ends on December 31st, 2011, to be the Hudson Mohawk Remsco representative to the CMAC. Any discussion on that seconded motion?
Did you make us pizza like you did the motion?
It doesn't matter.
Subject Dr. Daly to making pizza.
Did you
All
make
in
pizza
favor?
for us?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do have a motion for pepperoni on it. We'll now accept the report of the Nurses Committee from Anne Marie Cross.
We discussed the formulary changes. Some of the key changes were that D50 has been changed to D10, so it will no longer be D50, and the D10 will be stocked in 250 ml bags. All of the normal saving bags will only be stocked in 100 ml bags or 1,000 ml bags, so as not to confuse this with the D10. And dopamine, Phoenix, Zofran, and Toradol will no longer be stocked, or has no longer be stocked by EMS. We were asked to talk about the pre-hospital specimens based on some feedback that was given to Steve Rinaldi to revisit that so that we, and basically the previous concerns from the hospitals were hemolysis and the labeling of specimens. We decided to table that for the January meeting and to ask Steve if he would attend and discuss it a little bit further. We talked about pre-hospital OB patients in Saratoga County. Current practice issue that patients who are receiving prenatal care from Albany Med with a plan to deliver at Albany Med are being told to go to the nearest hospital, mostly by their own providers, when they call the obstetrical resident on call, indicating that they may be in labor, they have ruptured membranes, etc. And in many cases, delays the patient's arrival at Albany Med, so brought to Saratoga first, and when they really should be at Albany Med. We were looking at the renal protocols, and the new protocols actually state, they don't state go to the nearest hospital, it states bring the patient to the nearest appropriate hospital. So based on that, we were really able to really resolve it at that time. So we'll just go back and re-educate all the EMS from Saratoga County, as well as bring it back to the department and then, re-educate the OB docs. PCRs and face sheets we discussed. St. Peter's does have a new server now and said that they will soon be using AutoFax. Not quite done, but it's a lot closer, and they kind of, as I said at the last meeting, they kind of heightened it a bit to their IT department, so looks like that will be happening soon. Then ambulance restocking, St. Peter's brought up the issue that they are really running out of supplies almost on a daily basis from their EMS Pyxis, because they said that in investigating it, that EMS is not entering the amount of each item that they're taking. So the nurse committee is requesting that Renal Council, again, send out a directive. I believe we did that probably 8 months ago. It seemed to have improved a bit, and just ask them again to just really respect that one-to-one exchange and the partnership with the hospital. And that was the end. The next meeting will be January 19th, and it's going to be held at Seton.
Any questions for Anne Marie? Great report. Tim, can you please resend the communication regarding the one-to-one exchange? Thank you. MCI committee, PJ's not here. Is anyone going to provide a MCI committee report? Okay, we'll table that until our January meeting. Membership committee?
No
Phil?
report.
We did upstairs request a nominating committee, which Jim Reagan agreed to work with you on and to organize regarding the enthusiastic interest, I'm sure, that's present among my colleagues on the council to pursue officer roles in the 2012 cycle. Submit your letters of interest to Jim and Phyllis, and they'll be brought to discussion over December and at our January meeting. QI committee.
No report.
GPO committee report. Mr. Kroll.
We have, I think, pretty much concluded our negotiations with Mohawk Hospital Equipment on continuing the GPO. In the last rounds, they did make a little bit of a move in our direction, even though not as far as we would have preferred. But I think we've reached the best point we can, and I think we have a seconded motion to now approve the new GPO contract going forward. In addition, we're going to continue talking with them about some other things that are not contract-related items that we think will enhance the value to all parties involved, the purchasers, being agencies, Remo, and the Mohawk Hospital Equipment. There are some items where their pricing is more competitive than their competitors, and there's some items where it's not. We're going to try and identify some of the items where their pricing is not as competitive, see if they'll take those high volume items and readdress their pricing. That works to everybody's advantage. They build their volume. When they build their volume, we get a percentage of a higher volume. And in addition, and most importantly, it will deliver better pricing to the end users at the agencies. So, I know from being a purchaser, there are a number of things that we purchase that I don't purchase from them because it's better other places. We're going to let them know what those things are and see if we can reach an accommodation where they can slash their prices like Walmart on those items. So we bring forward a seconded motion to renew the GPO contract, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. Yep.
What's the current percentage and what is the percentage we've agreed on?
The percentage in the original contract was 1%. We now have 1%, and there will be what are called bonus tiers. When we reach a certain threshold of savings, we will receive a bonus payment. Those tiers are at a volume of $20,000 a month, we will receive a monthly bonus of $300. At $50,000 a month, we would receive a bonus of $750. At this point in time, we don't qualify for those tiers. We're going to have to achieve some significant increase in our volume to achieve those tiers. However, we also, as part of this contract, will be receiving GPO revenue for any sales that are made not only in this region, but in the other two regions that we'll be doing this marketing to, Aaron and Mountain Lakes. So if we get a comparable amount of sales in those two regions to what we do here, we will then get very close to those threshold points quickly and achieve those bonuses.
Any further discussion?
Just one thing about the GPO, just to confirm, Tim, we ended up purchasing the protocol manuals through contacts to the GPO. That's how we got to folks that
Was
ended
it?
up doing that.
Yeah.
It was through Premier.
Premier. One of the things joining the
that
GPO.
ended up saving us somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000, and that was pretty impressive. So thank you.
By joining the GPO, and I think Rich has had some experience with this at Mohawk as well, that opens you up to what is called Premier. Premier is a multi-billion-dollar purchasing cooperative of hospital supplies and other goods. And Premier negotiates contracts on all sorts of different things. So we only get, as Remo, a percentage of sales actually made by Mohawk Hospital Supply, but the people who join get access to discounts through many other things. So for example, printing. And what happens is all these people that vend things go to Premier and say, we want you to steer business to us, here's our best price. So you can buy ice cream through Premier, you can buy tires, you can buy roofing material, you can buy ambulances. They're in the food day of deals with Aramark on food vending. If you want virtually any commodity, Premier has a multi-thousand list of vendors. So while we don't get preferred rebates on those products that you purchase outside of Mohawk Hospital Supply, for an EMS agency, many of the things you buy are the things hospitals buy. Vehicles, cleaning supplies, construction materials, all those things can be obtained and you can get a discount on those as well.
Any further discussion? As a seconded motion to approve the contract with Mohawk Hospital Equipment, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Anything else, Dave? Thank you, sir. County reports, Albany County.
Nothing to report.
Columbia County. Greene County.
Greene County has an EMT refresher coming up in January, and has only one state highway still cut from this line. The rest they exist.
Good news. Remsco County.
Nothing to report, but our county radio committee raised a question, and while it doesn't sound like it's imminent, there is an actual hard date for narrow banding, which affects the high band radios that the ambulances use. And there is some concern. I know the Department of Health did send a query out to the hospitals last year, and my concern is, should this body be doing anything to notify the agencies within our group that narrow banding is coming? The deadline is January 2013, and some agencies not planning to spend money for equipment this coming year, they may have to change their plans in order to meet that date. So I know we don't have a radio committee any longer, but I think this council is in an ideal position to at least send a reminder out to our agencies within the region that they need to check to see if the equipment they have is capable of narrow banding, as most of the recent equipment is, or if not, if they are working on a plan to purchase the required equipment.
Discussion regarding narrow banding.
Albany County has already polled many of the agencies to get a grant to consolidate every agency in the county on a new program, not to replace equipment. I don't know the status of where it is at this point.
The license for those frequencies, is that run by the state?
Yes, that's our understanding.
Because one of the issues you might have is if you have radios, some are narrow, some don't, they need to have a transition date that really falls to them to pick one.
Yeah, and there is some discussion of what will happen if you don't go, if your radio doesn't become reprogrammed for narrow banding. And I can't get a solid answer, but generally the answer is you might or might not receive other transmissions. They might or might not receive yours. And if you are on a PL, private line arrangement, you probably would not be allowed to use that. It probably wouldn't function for you. So
yeah, it's system dependent.
Yeah,
ultimately you want to change them all at one particular time. But if
yeah,
it's too fast, to what you pointed out, you need to plan for the purchasing because not all the old radios will convert to narrow.
Right.
Once you know that your units can convert, then you have to have a set date to convert.
And there is a list available. We had one of our squad captains find a list by Googling narrow banding, And there's a current list of which models, all popular brands, which models are capable of narrow banding. So chances are if the radio's been purchased in the last 6 or 8 years, it probably would be okay. I'm not saying it is. You know, and most people replace their radio with their ambulances, so that's happening. But there are a few out there that probably aren't getting the message, and that's my concern.
Any further comments on this? Like to maybe suggest, maybe Tim can research the issue and bring back maybe
If I'm not mistaken, I did send out an advisory probably about a year or so ago on this. But I'll resend it.
We'll look into it. Maybe there's some grant opportunities for the council to assist or otherwise. Thank you for bringing that point up, Kevin. Anything further from Mercer County?
That's all, thank you.
Saratoga County?
No report.
Schenectady County?
No report.
Okay. Under new business, we do have Dr. Albert Jagoda. I apologize if I mispronounced that. He's in the back of the room. He'll be voted on next month by the REMAC to replace Dr. Wood. And we welcome you, and I look forward to working with you. We have a transfer of operating authority issue, which we've already addressed, and then we have 2 items of old business. First item is you would approve by your email vote the 2010-2011 incentive compensation vote. I just want to make note in the record of your unanimous approval of that incentive compensation payout. The details of that are here if anyone would like to see them. In addition, on November 3rd, I sent out an email that read as follows to the CON committee members and to the council. It said, pursuant to a formal request from the New York State Department of Health and through direct consultation with Dana Jonas, the Hudson Mohawk Remsco has been asked to approve expeditiously an emergency CON for the extreme southwest corner of Greene County. As a result of the effects of Tropical Storm Irene, the operating area of the Lexington Rescue Squad has been disrupted, resulting in the emergent assistance of the neighboring Shandaken Ambulance Service to effect timely medical response to that portion of the county. Lexington simply cannot respond to certain sections of their operating area due to massive infrastructure disruption. In reference to the above, CON Chairman Evan Eisenhandler would like to make the following motion, which was supported by me, which stated, quote, at this time and upon direct result of the New York State DOH, and in conjunction with a review of submitted documentation and the endorsement of the CON committee, I would like to make a motion that the Hudson Mohawk Remsco grant emergency operating authority to Shandaken Ambulance to continue operations in the Lexington Ambulance District for a period of no more than 60 days as prescribed by Article 30 and within the delegated powers of the Regional Council and as set forth in the correspondence received from Lexington and Shandaken. The vote was documented as a roll call vote, and the following responded with an affirmative to pass that motion on November 3rd. Les Fremantle, yes. William Price, yes. Jim Reagan, yes. P.J. Keeler, yes. Phyllis Dinkellocker, yes. Phil Myers, yes. Evan Eisenhandler, yes. Steve Retzlaff, yes. Kathleen Allen, yes. Dale Lingenfelter, yes. James Vina, yes. John McMillan, yes. Dr. Daly, yes. Steve Kroll, yes. As chairman, I abstained. Rich Brandt, yes. Lynn Kane, yes. Jim Stairs, yes. Skip Nearney, yes. Scott Skinner, yes. And Anne Marie Cross, yes. By unanimous vote, the emergency CON for 60 days was awarded. Any items from the floor or further business to be brought before the council?
Just a question on that specific action. If that was done on November 3rd, it would expire on January 3rd. I'm not aware of Mr. Bettini's description of what roads back open, but I mean, will we need to extend this, or do you think that'll be?
I think we would need to extend it. The study of the road, Route 42, goes from Lexington over to Shandaken. That's the one that's still cut. There's a portion of the southern portion of their operating territory that they can't reach.
It's our understanding that we're not allowed to extend that emergency granting, and that the respective party needs to apply for a certificate of need for that.
That's my understanding as well.
further discussion on that item? Any other items to be brought before the council? Steve?
This is an item about something I'd like us to consider discussing in the future. We've been doing a lot of things with CONs over the last year, and as a member of the council, I often find myself being asked to vote on something that appears before us that I don't know a lot about. The CON committee tends to meet on the same night as the council, and then the executive committee meets, and then it gets brought before this council on that same night. And I think the CON committee does an incredibly good job of analyzing these with our council and with Tim. And I think we tend sometimes to be voting on things as members of this council we may not be informed about because the timeframes move so quickly. I'm wondering if within the guidance that's provided to us by the statutes and the regulations, is it possible for us as a council to develop some CON policies that we would use in the future after they're developed and vetted and everyone would agree to them, that allows us to be in a position to give the membership of the council information on what they'll be voting on. In some cases, things that we're voting on may be things where there is not a lot of information that would be relevant to somebody's vote. In other cases, there has been information, like when we had a long discussion about Cambridge Valley a couple months ago, there was a lot of information. But I think we always seem to be in a pressured position to have to decide on something today. And I know that I feel that I'm uninformed when I'm voting and don't have all the information sometimes. I think it's something we could work on for the future. Again, it's got to meet the guidelines that we have to operate in from a statutory and a regulatory standpoint. But we might be able to adopt some things that are acceptable within there that give us time, whether it be for people to have information to read, being sent to them before a meeting, or whether certain things get discussed by the committee at one meeting but don't get adopted by the full body until another meeting so that people have the time to review it. Because I think a fair amount of business takes place in that hallway where, the CON committee has done something at 5 o'clock and then the general membership has to ask questions about it, between 6:45 and 7. And I think Evan does a great job of answering questions for people, and I think when Terry's here, he does a good job of explaining the legal ramifications of things. But I don't think we all necessarily have the information we need, and I think it would improve our deliberations as a body.
Reactions?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Yeah, some of these time constraints do cause some of the problems, but one of the things I would mention is these applications could certainly, they very often appear in electronic form. Not always, but very often. It would be a matter of the ones that aren't in electronic format, getting them into that, preferably in a PDF, and then getting on the council membership and the alternates, because, so I don't see an ethical problem doing that, and it certainly would be a good idea if we could do that. I think the mechanism has to be explored, and yeah, I don't see any problem with that unless anyone else does. You ask me a question, I'll give you the answer, and I think that's the way it should be. And you have a valid point. Some of these applications are fairly extensive, and they have a good number of attachments, and asking someone who hasn't seen it or heard about it until a meeting to vote on, you could put someone in an uncomfortable position. So I think the days of blind faith are either over or should be over, and I think the council members should at least see the applications before they get to the voting stage. And if one interests you in particular, the CON committee meetings are open. I know it's awkward to get here for some people, at 5, or sometimes we've done special meetings at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But no, I believe it's a good idea, and I'll speak with Tim about how we can go about doing that.
Great.
I have no problem with that.
Rich?
I think we have the right to require every applicant to provide a copy of the application, either electronically or in paper. Electronic would be preferable, obviously, for every seated member, every voting member of the regional council. I think we should exercise that right. There's no reason everybody here should not have a copy of an application expected to act on. The other thing I would suggest to our colleagues here is that we have the ability, everybody has tight schedules, to attend the public hearings. I've sat in many public hearings, as Mr. Robert, Mr. Retzloff, Mr. Eisenhandler, and I can tell you there's darn few people in the audience.
Okay. Tim, perhaps you could work with the same committee, maybe check with some other councils, see what policies are out there. Would we, sorry, Jim?
No, just a suggestion along the same lines. I agree completely with the comments made, and only because we were, I think, placed in an awkward position for a recent vote when there was persons who were unable to attend the CON meeting, and then others who declared a conflict of interest. Perhaps as we move forward in revising the CON committee, especially because of the tight time frame afforded it by statute, that perhaps we should not only seat members to that committee, but possibly seat, let's say, 2 alternates who would always attend, and in the event that, let's say 2 or 3 people had a conflict, whether it be out of town or a conflict of interest, that the committee's actions could move forward with the time frame afforded us and present the information as was just described in as comprehensive a manner as possible, so we can act, appropriately. And that's, I guess, part nominating committee, part just general discussion.
Okay.
I
Yes?
was wondering, instead of sending out PDF or whatnot, so we're not put on the website that maybe is password protected? So we're not contacting their own computers and telephones and
It
whatnot?
doesn't even have to be password protected. It's in the public domain once we accept it as complete.
Okay.
Tim, you want to look into that too? Okay. Any particular policies around this action may require review by council. So do we have a motion to engage council as needed for this matter? Seconded by Steve. All in favor of engaging Terry Henning and council to advise in this matter as needed?
Yeah, one of the things that we were just discussing, the fitness and competency portion of some of these contain personal information that should not be disclosed.
Right. It would be redacted.
I like to think the committee's been careful with this information, and some of that stuff probably shouldn't be on the website or widely distributed.
Yep.
I mean,
It could be put
home
in the
addresses of
policy.
people, you have their business history, you may have some history that they are a little embarrassed about.
You can draft that into your policy.
Right, we'll add that into the
We can draft that
policy.
into the policy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think,
It'll be
definitely.
redacted.
Certain redaction.
Yeah, some of that stuff, But, yeah, I think the rest of it, I mean, the application is, a public document. We have to have it on file, and, I know that some of the applications that have been, sent to the regional council have been requested. Copies have been requested. People that may be affected by the application have come in and looked at them. By all means, it shouldn't be something done in the middle of the night. It's something that should be done in the light of day and by an informed group.
Well, this group will work on those policies, Evan, I think, and we'll include the redactions as well, just kind of those considerations. We have a motion by Skip and seconded by Steve Kroll to vote on to engage Terry Henning and his counsel to advise on this matter as needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Any further business to be brought before the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, please. All the eager hands.
We have the motion on postponement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?